It always sucks when you create a deck that is finally getting you consistent wins, only for the next update to change the meta completely and make your entire deck useless. So today, I'm going to teach you 10 of the most reliable decks out there, which you only have to make once and then can use forever. So, without further delay, let's begin. Starting off strong at number 10, we've got Archer Queen Royal Hogs. This deck runs Archer Queen, Evolved Royal Hogs, Evolved Cannon, Earthquake, Royal Delivery, the Log, Skeletons, and Ice Spirit. Sitting at roughly a 2.9 average elixir cost, this deck is all about relentless pressure and punishing your opponent for the smallest mistake. The core win condition is Evolved Royal Hogs paired with Earthquake. If your opponent relies on buildings, Earthquake completely deletes their defense, while the Hogs chip away for guaranteed damage. If they ignore a Hog split for even a second, they're losing hundreds of HP. But Archer Queen is what makes this entire deck come together. She melts tanks and support units, and once you pop her ability on a counter push, she becomes really strong on her own. This deck thrives on control. You defend efficiently, split Hogs non-stop, and wait for that one opening where Earthquake turns a good push into tower damage. But while Royal Hogs are great for split lane pressure, the next deck on our list excels at taking one lane and making it a nightmare for your opponent. Next up at number 9, we've got Royal Giant Cycle. This deck runs Royal Giant, Fisherman, Hunter, Tesla, Skeletons, Electro Spirit, Fireball, and the Log. With a 3.1 average elixir cost, this deck is built to outcycle counters and keep non-stop pressure on your opponent. Here's the thing about Royal Giant. He doesn't need support to be dangerous. Drop him at the bridge and he immediately forces a response or starts chipping the tower. Because your deck is so cheap, you're constantly cycling back to another Royal Giant before your opponent has their hard counters ready again. That's where this deck really shines. Defensively, Fisherman and Hunter are doing heavy lifting. Fisherman pulls tanks and win conditions into terrible positions, lining them up perfectly for Hunter's massive close-range damage. Tesla adds another layer of control, pulling building targeting troops and stalling big pushes. Overall, this deck rewards patience and precision. Defend cleanly, cycle fast, and slowly suffocate your opponent with Royal Giant pressure. But there might be one deck that's even better at suffocating your opponent than Royal Giant Cycle. At number 8, we've got Mortar Bait. This deck runs Mortar, Dart Goblin, Fireball, Knight Minions, Evolved Skeleton Barrel, Skeletons, and Barbarian Barrel, and sits at a 2.9 average elixir cost. Here's the thing about Mortar. It's both a defensive anchor and your primary win condition. Placed just behind the river, Mortar locks onto the tower and starts chipping away, while also pulling pressure off your side of the arena. At the same time, Evolved Skeleton Barrel acts as your secondary threat. Drop it at the bridge, and you're forcing a response from your opponent, all for 3 elixir. Dart Goblin and Minions provide insane value on defense, shredding pushes while surviving long enough to counter push. Knight is your reliable mini-tank, soaking damage and cleaning up support units with ease, especially after the update that gave him hero status. Overall, this deck thrives on bait and pressure. You force out small spells with Skeleton Barrel, then punish immediately with Mortar. Play it patiently, control the game, and slowly chip your opponent down until the tower collapses. But not all decks rely on cycling or siege tactics to win the game. Coming in at number 7, we've got Giant Double Prince, one of the most classic and punishing beatdown decks in Clash Royale history. This deck runs Giant, Prince, Dark Prince, Mega Minion, Bomber, Zap, Arrows, and Lightning, sitting at around a 3.9 average elixir cost. It's slower than the cycle decks above it, but what it lacks in speed, it makes up for in sheer momentum. The entire game revolves around building unstoppable pushes. Giant is your tank, soaking up damage while both princes charge behind him. If your opponent misplaces a unit or mistimes a spell, the prince's charge connects, and suddenly the tower is taking massive damage. Dark Prince is just as important since his splash damage deletes swarms and clears the path, so the push keeps rolling. Then there's Lightning, which is what truly seals games. One clean Lightning removing a building, musketeer, or wizard can instantly turn a good push into a tower taker. This deck thrives on pressure and punishment. One mistake, one bad defense, and the game snowballs completely out of control for your opponent and into your hands. But while Giant Double Prince is a slow burn deck that slowly increases the pressure, the next deck on our list is focused on not giving the opponent even a second to breathe. At number 6, we've got P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam. This deck runs P.E.K.K.A., Bandit, Evo Battle Ram, Electro Wizard, Magic Archer, Royal Ghost, Fireball, and Zap. With an average elixir cost of around 3.8, this build forces opponents to respond perfectly or get slammed from every angle. The card that really makes this deck is P.E.K.K.A. On defense, she absolutely shreds tanks and heavy troops with her massive single target damage. Stop a giant, golem, or hog in their tracks, then immediately transition into your own pressure with a bandit or battle ram behind her. That defensive swing becomes offensive momentum, and that's where this deck really shines. Bandit, Battle Ram Evo, and Royal Ghost Evo are your bridge punishers. They're cheap and force reactions. A perfectly timed bandit or ram at the bridge splits the opponent's attention and forces awkward spell value. This deck rewards fast reads and precise timing. You defend smart, then immediately punish with pressure before your opponent can reset. But while this deck has to wait for your opponent to attack before it can counter, the next deck goes all out on the offensive. Sliding into number 5, we've got Giant Graveyard Control. This deck runs Hero Giant, Evo Witch, Hero Mini P.E.K.K.A, Bowler, Graveyard, Minions, Arrows, and Evolved Giant Snowball, giving it a balanced 3.6 average elixir cost that mixes strong defense with powerful offense. The way this deck works is you start by putting down the giant at the bridge, and suddenly your opponent has to make a decision: ignore it and take huge chip damage, or spend big elixir to stop him. Now, no one is just going to let a giant run free on their tower, so as soon as your opponent commits, that's your window to throw down Graveyard on their tower, giving you insane hit points while your giant soaks up all the damage. Witch and Bowler are your defensive anchors. Witch's splash output stalls all of your opponent's pushes, while Bowler knocks back heavy ground troops and clears swarms like it's nothing. Behind them, Mini P.E.K.K.A turns defense into immediate counter pressure with huge single target damage. This deck thrives on control and timing, and as soon as you get one well-timed Graveyard with Giant still standing, your victory is all but confirmed. Moving into number 4, we've got Hyperbait. This deck runs Skeleton King, Evo Skeleton Army, Evo Skeleton Barrel, Dart Goblin, Fire Spirit, Ice Spirit, Suspicious Bush, and Vines. With an ultra-low average elixir cost of around 2.9, this deck is all about overwhelming your opponent with non-stop troop pressure and punishing every spell misplay. The core of this deck is the Skeleton King. For those of you who live under a rock, every time Skeleton King hits a troop or tower, he spawns skeletons. He synergizes incredibly well with your bait cards, turning every small push into a potential tower takedown. This deck lives and dies on baiting out small spells. Skeleton Barrel and Skeleton Army are perfect at tempting arrows, zap, or log early. And as soon as your opponent burns their counters, you drop the next threat and punish immediately. You constantly force choices. Do they save the spell for Skeleton Barrel or use it on Dart Goblin? Either way, you're gaining value and opening damage windows. But let's get back to the insane decks you can make using Graveyard by talking about one of the most famous Graveyard decks. At number 3, we've got Splash Yard. This deck runs Goblinstein, Graveyard, Evo Goblin Cage, Ice Wizard, Evo Valkyrie, Guards, Poison, and Barbarian Barrel. When it comes to the Goblinstein, he's not your average support card. When played right, Goblinstein absorbs tower shots and enemy spells, allowing your other troops to survive longer and get serious value, often turning what should be just a defense into a full counter push opportunity behind a Valkyrie or Graveyard. But speaking of offense, Graveyard plus Poison is your bread and butter combo. You plant Graveyard on the tower and follow with Poison to clear swarms and destroy support troops, turning chip damage into consistent tower loss. This deck thrives on defense turning into offense. You defend smart, take value trades, and then instantly punish with Graveyard or a Goblinstein-backed counter. One misstep from your opponent, and their tower is melting before they can react. But while this deck is insane, the next one is even harder to fight against. At number 2, we've got Miner Wall Breakers Cycle. This deck runs Miner, Wall Breakers, Valkyrie, Electro Wizard, Skeletons, Inferno Tower, Zap, and the Log, and sits at a blazing 2.9 average elixir cost. When it comes to this deck, you instantly have 2 win conditions that synergize well with each other. You have the Miner, who you can send in first to distract the tower and do small chip damage. And then, right after that, you can push your Wall Breakers to get insane damage, all for a combined 6 elixir cost. Defense is just as important as offense here. Valkyrie smashes ground pushes and pushes big tanks into Inferno Tower range, which melts high HP units before they ever reach your tower. Electro Wizard is your only direct air defense, so you have to keep him safe for balloons, minions, or pesky flying threats, and you'll stay in control. This deck shows that you don't need massive pushes, just relentless pressure, smart spell usage, and forcing your opponent to make mistakes. But if there's one deck that shows this even better, then it would have to be the one, the only, Hog 2.6 Cycle. Topping our list at number 1, this deck runs Hog Rider, Hero Ice Golem, Hero Musketeer, Evo Cannon, Fireball, the Log, Ice Spirit, and Skeletons. With a super fast average elixir cost around 2.6, all you have to do is put that hog down basically every chance you get. You drop Hog at the bridge, and suddenly your opponent has to dedicate Elixir to stop it or take chip damage. Even if they're able to stop your Hog a dozen times in a row, because your deck is so cheap, you're almost always back to Hog before they're ready to deal with it again. Ice Golem Hero is your perfect partner in crime. He tanks tower shots and redirects troops while your Hog gets those critical hits in. Meanwhile, Musketeer Hero provides solid, reliable damage from the back, picking off flying threats and support units that try to shut down your pushes. Truly, Hog Cycle is one of the most insane and maybe the most famous Clash Royale deck of all time. And that's all. 10 decks you can trust no matter how the meta changes. Pick your favorite, master it, and start farming wins. If this helped you out, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Clash Royale content. See you in the next one.